Okay, welcome to the Rugby League Outsiders set of 6, where we share the good, the great and the newsworthy of Rugby League outside the heartlands. My name's Craig.
And my name's Karl, and on this week's set of 6 we have to talk about and dissect the England v France international. And we've also got a bit of an exclusive. We're going to be talking to the latest club to submit an application for League One, and they're aiming a little bit higher than League One, all the way for Super League.
Okay, so Super League news is a little bit sparse on the ground this week, but we've got some international stuff to talk about. Also some university stuff. This great chat with a club that's bidding to be in part of League One and a few other bits and bobs as well. So, Karl, probably a little bit harder to choose stories this week as it normally is. So what's kind of been what have you been looking for?
You say that, but I try and stay away from Super League stories, don't I? So this week it were easy because there weren't any. There's been quite a lot going on in the international game, university game. There's quite a lot to talk about, actually.
Right, okay, well, I might as well get straight into it. Now, I didn't watch this. I was doing other bits and bobs, but you watched the England v France international, and if you could sum it up in one word, what would it be?
It was a shocker.
Yeah.
I tell you what, right, you hit the nail on the head straight away. You said, I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
Why didn't you watch it?
Well, it was just so freaking hard to watch.
There's point number one.
Yeah, it was just so hard to watch. I mean, I couldn't find it anyway. I assumed it was going to be on BBC iPlayer. It wasn't, or I certainly couldn't find it. I tried downloading Super League Plus. I've not had it, and I couldn't get that to freaking work. It just kept timing out on the page, so I don't know whether it was my internet connection or the app or whatever. It was just disastrous, to the point where I was like, sod it, I'm going to go and watch the local team, Telford Raiders, take on freaking Birmingham Bulldogs. And I'm glad I did, because I didn't stand a chance of watching it.
No, well, so you were right. The app was terrible. It just wouldn't work. Like, we always try and be really positive, don't we, on this show? We don't like slagging the sport off. It's not what we do. It's not what we do. But that was dreadful at the weekend, and it was pretty much everything about it. Like, the app it took me about 40, 50 minutes to get it working. It was like they didn't want it to be seen, and that's terrible for an international game. So yeah, the app took absolutely ages to get going. Eventually, I managed to get it working, and I wasn't alone. There was absolutely loads of people online all trying to get the app to work, and just like you, gave up. It just didn't work. And then we'll talk about the game. The crowd was dreadful. There was
non-existent.
There was 4,500 there. The last time England played France in France, I believe there was 12,500 there. So the drop is huge, and I don't know where we go. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if it's a lack of marketing from the French side. I've been thinking all week about it. Where do we go from here? Because I've been so excited for the England-Samoa internationals that's going to be taking place next year. And everything about it felt like it was just
second rate,
an afterthought warm-up game to what we're going to be watching later on in the season, really.
Yeah, it's a shame, because straight away I thought, right, what the fuck of IMG? What's their take on this, right? And I went back to look at the recommendations from IMG way back in, I think it was April last year. And the second one was like, we need to make space in October and
middle of the year
for an international, right? So that was one of their recommendations. So what the hell? I mean, they might have made space in the Super League calendar, but I think actually that disgruntled a few Super League clubs, and they weren't with it, were they? They weren't going with it.
Well,
so
the stall was set out earlier on in the year, wasn't it? When they said England are going to be playing France, it's going to be played before Toulouse v Featherstone. Straight away, it's just, and that set the precedence, I think. And for all the fans who were like, well, if the body doesn't care about, international body doesn't care about this fixture, they're putting it on as a curtain raiser for a Featherstone game, then the fans aren't going to care about it, and that, I believe that's what happened.
So am I right in thinking there was a bit of a story where, like, France couldn't afford to come to England. Therefore, England travelled across to there. Was that the case?
Well, no, I don't think
that.
so. I think this was an anniversary game for the French Rugby League. It was like 90 years of the French Rugby League or something along those lines, the French Federation. So it was supposed to be like a celebration game, but I don't know if it wasn't promoted in France. I know it was played in Toulouse, which is it's an up and coming. Well, that's not an up and coming because Rugby League's been there for years. I don't know, mate. I don't know. It was terrible to not see it be televised. Because in my opinion, every England match should always be televised. Even in this country, there wasn't much promo for it, was there?
No,
there was no build up for it. It was.
Do you know? It's shocking. I mean, it's shocking for the fans. It really is shocking for the fans. But there was 4 debutants that game.
Yeah, it was the players
I
felt for.
Yeah, the players. But also, I mean, this is Sean Wayne's main job. You know what I mean? This is what he works towards all the time, and to not get any kind of recognition. But also, I haven't seen any positive comments online about this. Everybody has just sort of smashed it hard and slagged it off, and I've got a real ill feeling about it. And it's a little bit devastating.
Well, I say I've tried to look for the positives, and there ain't many to find. England played as well. The first 20 minutes, they played like they were playing in front of an empty stadium, a fixture that just didn't really matter. And that's what it felt like. You're just watching it and thinking, well, the fans aren't bothered to turn up. The team don't seem that interested about it. They did pick it up. The first 20 minutes were dreadful. They didn't respect the ball. They didn't respect France. France were more up for it than they were. They did get into it and they blew them away in the end. It was 40 points to 10 or something. But I go back to France as well. I expect more from that French team. That was a team of Super League players pretty much. Yeah,
but it was predominantly Catalan Dragons, wasn't it? You looked at the team, there was predominantly Catalan Dragons, you know what I mean? So
yeah, you got like.
Do you think if they'd have had a stronger opposition, the game would have been promoted a bit more, you know?
Yeah, but you said that it's predominantly Catalan Dragons. Like Catalan Dragons are a poor team. They're not a poor team, are they?
No, but they're not like they're the Super League side. Middle of the table Super League side at the moment. They're not an international side.
True.
That's a tough one. What do you think's being said at the top of the game, like the very top echelons of RFL? Do you think they give a shit or what?
I hope they do, and I hope it's been dissected, and I hope there's some people are under a lot of pressure to really improve the international game. I think it goes deeper than that, though, doesn't it? Because I think we as fans. I mean, what did you think when we announced we were playing France?
I thought it was. Well, I mean, we've seen it before, haven't we?
Yeah.
When you kind of know
they haven't beaten us for 40 years.
Yeah, we can probably guess. I mean, this 40 points, they might get a try, a couple of tries. We can kind of guess that. We can assume that. And you've got to look at all these games as like with the long term vision of it. You know what I mean? Like we've got to have these internationals because in the future it's going to be stronger. I read something online about very similar to Italy in the Six Nations or whatever.
Aaron Bauer's article in The Guardian, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he was sort of saying, Italy used to get smashed every time, every tournament, every game, just get smashed. Now they're starting to compete and they beat Scotland the other day. So, it
takes a long time, doesn't it?
We've got to have this long-term view of it. But I still like to see my country run out in those colours.
Yeah.
And I like to see the formation. Like, okay, Sean Wayne's going to pick this England side, and who's going to be in that side? Because it's basically telling you who the 4 running English players in the game right now. And I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
And I want to see overseas players, the likes, Dom Young, whoever qualifies to come and play in that team and see them have a run out, you know what I mean? And so I think I am excited about it. I do want to see it.
There's probably more to it than just dissecting that game, England v France, on that day, and we don't have. We don't have any meaningful internationals left now, do we? We don't have, France and Ireland and Scotland. We know that we may not see them play again for years to come, and that's sad. And you've got a lot of this were another article I read this week. There's a lot of players in the England setup at the minute who would qualify for Ireland and qualify for Scotland. but they don't have a squad to play for. Therefore, they're all playing for England. But then
that dilutes.
But then it dilutes. Yeah, and then 4 nations would be great, wouldn't it? Or 5 nations, and even if England had to play an England Knights team in that just to build it up, I'd love to see, and I think that would get more traction than what we watched at the weekend did.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, 2 things you can guess that Sean Wayne is absolutely kicking locker doors in and bloody throwing his weight around right now. I can't imagine he's going to settle for that. But also, the other thing is that when you think like 4,500 people, and then you look at State of Origin, 90,000 people in a stadium. It's night and day, and the Aussies must be freaking laughing at us.
Well,
laughing at us.
Funnily enough, if you lived in Australia, you could actually watch it on TV.
Why? How? What the
I don't know, mate.
I feel like someone's just reached inside my anus and pulled out my fucking kidney there. That's shocking.
You could watch it in Australia, but we couldn't watch it over here. We had to find it on an app.
How many obstacles do you want to put in front of your fans? Do you know what I mean? Oh, come on. Right, okay, let's move on.
We've got to get past that because it was depressing enough. And what was it? Last point, what was even worse is that all the rugby union press picked up on it. Just run articles about it on all the websites. Just basically,
of course you would.
Of course you would. Basically, just laughing about it. It was.
It was a shame.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, so tackle 2. So talking about the international shocker, but some real positive news, particularly in the Norfolk, east of England area, Karl.
Yeah, really positive news. We have a bit of an announcement. Well, it has gone out, but I don't think it's really got the traction it deserves. Anglian Vipers have announced that they have filed to enter League One in 2025, so incredibly exciting. Along with Bedford Tigers and Mayad, who have also...
Close neighbours, yeah.
Yeah, they've submitted it as well. And yeah, really great to speak to Rob Humphries, wasn't it, Craig?
Yeah, it is. I got really excited during this. I've got family tied connections to Norfolk, so the fact that there might be a semi-pro club there, a very ambitious club, might I say, and you'll pick up on that during this chat, is really exciting. So this is a story that we're going to be following, and here's that chat now. Okay, so we've got a quick chat with Rob Humphries, who's the chairman of the Anglian Vipers, and you've got some real interesting news for us there, Rob.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, we're going to have a crack. We've submitted our application for League One for 2025, which is a big jump from where we've started. We're only into our 3rd season now, so it's an ambitious jump. But I think these opportunities don't come along that often, and with some of the sort of restructuring that's happening, I think it's maybe it's not now or never, but it might be now or not for a long time. So we thought we better stick our hands up right now.
Rob, what's caused this to sort of happen? Is that, have you got players that are wanting to push up to League One, or is it a personal ambition of yours, or how's it come about?
A bit of everything, to be honest. When we set out, we sort of thought that but I've lived in Norfolk for a long time, and the only professional sporting teams in the region are football clubs. And I thought that there was so much rugby talent in the region. I mean, if you look at the Rugby Union World Cup last year, there's like 5 lads alone just from Norfolk. So it's an area that's always had a wealth of rugby skilled talent. And being a rugby league tragic myself, there has been rugby league teams in the region before, but I think they've sort of been fairly content to be community clubs. Whereas, I'm one of these sort of people that, if you're going to do something, give it a red hot crack and do it properly. And that's why, we sort of, from the outset, we sort of set out we wanted to set out like a big club from the start. So when we set up the club, we set the club up as a limited company, so that as we grew and we could attract, potentially outside investment, that we could make those decisions really dynamically and really quickly, rather than, sort of outgrowing our status as a community club and then having to kind of convert the structure of the club. We sort of set out like we wanted to be a big club from the start. So our ambition always was that, we've got 3.5 million people in East Anglia and we're the only rugby league team. Why wouldn't we want to try and pursue the absolute highest level of rugby league that we can? And, for me, Super League is the end game here. League One's a start, but we think we've got the population and the rugby talent pool that can ultimately support a Super League team full of homegrown players.
So, Rob, that's really exciting. I've got family connections to Norfolk, so the idea of being like a pro club, semi-pro club there is really exciting for me. What's the kind of the medium-term steps that you need to go through now to put yourself in a position to be kind of, considered seriously about this big jump? I
think we've got a few things going in our favour. Obviously, geographically, I think we make a lot of sense. If you look at the rugby league map in the UK, there's some gaping holes in the rugby league map. But I think we've got geographically we make a lot of sense. We're very fortunate. We've got an amazing home. I'm not sure if you've ever been to Wyndham Rugby Club, but the facility that we have is fantastic, and it's a ground that's got the capacity to grow with both the rugby league and the rugby union team. They're a very ambitious rugby union club. They've got the best setup, facility-wise, that I've seen in rugby union anywhere in the country. So, and they do a really strong fate as a club themselves. And they, after the end of the second year of us playing there, they sort of came to us and said, look, we can see what you're trying to do. We're on board with that. We want to keep you, we effectively want to have you in-house and have you as a long-term, as a long-term team that operates out of the club. And as they grow as a club and, they generate quite a lot of revenue, and they're looking at putting in, grandstands and more and more facilities all the time. I think we've got a really strong platform to grow from. I think, the big jump for us from a rugby league perspective is, where do we find that talent to compete at League One level as soon as possible? And whilst the rugby talent is without question, to me, there's enough rugby talent to compete at League One locally. We're going to have to look outside that, to a degree. And I think by going to League One, if we were successful in our application, I think guys from wherever will take opportunity over money. And I think if you've got ambitious young players that are, maybe outside the Broncos system at the moment, I think the big thing for us is having really strong partnerships with other clubs in the south, not necessarily just defaulting to recruiting from the north. I think there's we've sort of seen a few. We were a curtain raiser to the SCL game at the weekend, and there's plenty of talent running around the SCL league, and we think that obviously one of our rivals, we played Bedford on the weekend, and Bedford have obviously made their intentions clear about them wanting to pursue League One, and I get along with Rob Ashton really well. He's kind of been involved from the start. When we set up, he was running in front of the East competition, and he's a great guy. And Graham Brown and all the guys at Bedford, we've got a really good relationship with them. And I'd sort of said, look, if it's you guys that get the nod ahead of us, then we would want to work closer with you, and vice versa. I think it's really important that we create a genuine pathway for young young rugby players in the south and the east that have got a pathway to professional sport without having to leave home or travel miles and miles to do it. You see in rugby, you get so much talent in the East region, but they've got to go off to Leicester or North Kent or, whichever club that region's affiliated with. And these young fellas, they've got to leave home to pursue professional sport. Whereas if we can give young people in East Anglia that opportunity to pursue professional sport without having to leave home, then why wouldn't they get on board with it?
Yeah, 100%. Rob, just looking at the structure of the club, how are you set up currently? What's your junior program like? Are you developing players from a younger age, or another club hasn't been going that long? So just let viewers know what the structure of the club is at the minute.
Yeah, so at the moment we run a male and a female team, and 2 weeks ago we got our first ever sort of second men's team out. We were hosting a ladies festival, which was fantastic, and our ladies have been excellent. They had their first year in 2023, and they made the grand final of the women's competition in their first year. They're getting massive numbers to training. They're 25, 30 plus training most weeks. Really committed and really well led by Stacey Hargrave Walker, who's just a phenomenon in herself. And she's just so passionate. She'd played rugby league in the Forces, and we had a couple of ladies that had a bit of a taste of rugby league before. But they're really on board with the game, and we're seeing that not just in the ladies but in the men's. We have got a lot of guys that never thought they sort of see themselves playing rugby league, but they've come across and had a few games of it and absolutely loving it. We had one guy who's played only his second game for us last weekend, and he's a die-hard rugby union man, but he came into the change rooms after the game and he's just grinning from ear to ear, and he just said, I love this game. and you can't, there's no amount of money you can pay people to buy, to buy that enjoyment. And, the guys are realising, this is a really good, fun, fast game, and we don't want it to be an us and them between the two codes. I think that the two codes can really, really comfortably and happily live together. And we can give those lads that, are really serious about pursuing rugby union, but maybe don't get the opportunities because it's a big player pool that rugby's got to call upon. But actually, they're really enjoying and taking like ducks to water to rugby league, and if they've got the opportunity to pursue professional sport, because when you play sport, that's what you want, isn't it? If you're ambitious as an individual and you want to, get the absolute best out of your sort of sporting life, which can only range between maybe 10 to 15 years at the adult level, then if it's a slightly different code that you're paying to pursue that, then we want to be we want to be there and ready to welcome those guys with open arms.
Rob, so in terms of like next steps for the RFLs and dates for kind of notification, all that kind of thing, what do you know about the process now? Because I don't know much about what happens now, other than you've made an application. What happens now?
And is there any minimum requirements as well?
There is. Yeah, there's a lot of minimum requirements, and there's a lot of them that we meet and a lot of them that we don't. But we're by no means the finished article and saying, this is our submission, and we're not looking to continually improve, facilities and recruitment and the off-field, sort of side of things. The first step is we've submitted our application. We've put in our cash flow budgets, where we're going to, how we're going to fund this. And we've put that proposal forward. The RFL obviously go through that with a fine-tooth comb along with the other applicants. Then they'll come out and do a site visit. They'll come out and check out the club. And I know the RFL had sent young Eva out to oversee the Ladies Festival a couple of weeks ago, and her feedback directly to Pat Cluskey was that, we've got a wonderful venue there. It was a really well-run day. Everything was really well organised, and, it's a ground befitting certainly of League One Rugby League. There's changes and there's improvements and things that will need to be made in time. And obviously with the criteria that they set around, stadiums and things like that, there's obviously a difference between the stadium you're required to be playing Super League as to what you need for playing League One. But what we do have is a really wonderful facility. And I guess, longer term in mind, if we're looking to pay, to pursue Super League, then we're going to have to make and find money to help Wyndham Rugby Club make those improvements in terms of seating and grandstands and, screens and all of the requirements that you need to be a Super League club. But, I have had over the last couple of years sort of intermittent conversations with Norwich City about, is there an opportunity for our bigger games, maybe Challenge Cup games, during the downtime to get onto Carrow Road. And, they're always a little bit protective of what they've got there. But I think it's a bit of a builder than they'll come scenario. I think if people can see that we're genuinely ambitious and we're genuinely a club that wants to be a part of the community, I think people will get on board with that. And, Norfolk and East Anglian people and Suffolk and Cambridgeshire, they always find them quite parochial in that they always really get behind their own. You've only got to look at, Ipswich Town, Norwich City, how loyal the supporter base is, because they're teams that those people that live there can call their own. And that's what we want the Vipers to become. We want to be, a club of the people.
Yeah, Rob, thank you for joining us today, mate. Look, I wish you all the best with your application. I would love to, and speaking for Craig, we would love to see a club outside what we call the traditional heartlands. Make it professional, whether it's you or Bedford or another club outside the M62 corridor. So all the best. Thank you for joining us today. And
No, really appreciate it, fellas.
Cheers. Take care.
Thanks, Rob. Cheers, mate.
Take care, fellas.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, so great little chat with him there. Not only are they a club with huge ambitions. He mentioned Super League.
He did.
A number of times in that interview. I was like, Super League. I was like, I've heard this before, but I've spoke to Rob outside the show, and I know they've got big ambitions for this club, really big ambitions. Yeah, they have. And, I think I like the fact that they're aiming high. You know what I mean? I think they're quite realistic. Reading between the lines, they've got some back in there. They must have to even entertain the thought of going into League One, potentially Super League in the future. And it's a real positive story for a sport where we kind of we might struggle to build teams outside the heartlands. So
I'm sure there's going to be lots of ups and downs, but if anything else, it's really exciting.
Yeah, and the clip that we've just shown on the screen was an edited version. There is a full-length version of this interview on the YouTube channel as a Rugby League Outsiders extra. So if you want the full details, go check that out.
And we also get a little bit into State of Origin. Okay, the next State of Origin, 17th of July. So it's going to be a cracker. So we talk a little bit about that as well. So check out that clip. Okay, moving on to tackle 3, University Rugby League, another subject that we like to keep a close tab on. And we got a good mate involved in this one as well, Karl.
Yeah, so Adam Houston, he was the assistant coach to England Rugby University side. He was Kevin Deaton's right-hand man, has stepped up to take on the head coaching role. And another man who we've worked with before, Mark Sloan, the Loughborough University head coach, he's come in as the assistant coach for England University. Incredibly exciting times.
Yeah, and we think a lot of Mark Sloan. He's done some great stuff in the uni game, so I'm sure he's going to do really well as the assistant. What do you think Adam Houston's going to bring to that England setup, Karl?
Well, I think the England University setup is probably one of the best setups that we have in rugby league. I think Kevin Deaton's got to take a lot from that, and Adam's been his right-hand man, so I don't think he'll change a whole lot because it's a system that works, and it's worked for a number of years now. You know, they have the university games, then they have the North versus South trial games, and the whole package just works. So I think he will keep a winning formula. Yeah, and he clearly had his own little touch in there, but you know, there is some big news coming as well for University Rugby League with the structure of the leagues next year. I can't say what it is. I've been told not to say, but keep an eye on it. University Rugby League is thriving at the minute.
Yeah, and there's been a recent international game as well. What was the update on that?
Yeah, so they played Wales this weekend. So I'll approach this from two ways. So it was great to see England playing Wales in an international. England came out on top 40 points to 10. However,
that's interesting, isn't it? So was England-France.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the women's game was 44-10.
Yeah.
This is weird.
It took place in Port Talbot, and the second fixture is next weekend. It takes place in Stanley in Leeds.
Yeah.
But I've got to go on. Got to touch on the positives. Got to touch the negatives as well. We should have had 4 nations taking place right now.
Right.
Between the university side, and this competition's been going for 17 years, and I was really looking forward to this because I'd heard rumours it were going to be taking place in the Midlands, Ireland, Scotland, England and Wales. It were a great tournament last year, made loads of headlines. We spoke about it last year. I was really looking forward to covering it, and that hasn't taken place, and I don't know why. Ireland and Scotland withdrew from that competition, so it's just turned into an England v Wales test, so that is a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know the reasons behind it.
Okay, so more updates on that to follow. We'll no doubt cover the next match against Wales. And speaking of updates, we've also got an update about this podcast and this YouTube channel as well, Karl.
Yeah, Tackle 4 then. So the Rugby League Outsiders podcast studio is nearly complete. I think we're probably, if we're being realistic, we're probably about 2 weeks away, and we'll be in an all new, all singing, all dancing studio, which it'll allow us to do a lot more, won't it, Craig?
Yeah, it is. You know, you might think, well, you've got a studio already, but this is just like a corner of, the house, and it's like we'll just run it from there. But this is going to be a dedicated space where we're going to do a lot more than just the Rugby League Outsiders from. But it's really exciting because we can set it up and we can basically churn out news and react to news in almost real time.
Yeah.
So you know, we're not saying it's like a full-time job, but we're going to certainly invest a lot more time and effort into it. That said, if you've got any input, things that you'd like to hear from, things that you think we do well or do poorly and we should therefore let go, let us know, because obviously feedback is the breakfast of champions and we're hungry, right? So let us know.
Yeah, and it's also worth saying at this moment in time, I'm taking bookings for new guests, so we will have the option to be either in Bridgnorth or in Wolverhampton, so whichever you're located closer to, you know, you've got an option there. So yeah, I'm looking for new guests for the for the podcast at the minute. Get in touch on any of our social media channels if you want to take part.
Okay, so not only have we got a dedicated studio, but we've also got a partnership with the local radio station.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this one. So Switch Radio, we've been in partnership with Switch Radio now, and our podcast episodes are going to be shown on a Saturday before the news show. I think is the time slot we're talking about.
They're going to be broadcast, aren't they?
Yeah, they're going to be broadcast on Switch Radio. We think about 5 p.m. And they're going to be like 1 hour versions of our podcasts. There'll be a few past episodes will go on, as well as some new ones. So, yeah, really looking forward to working with them.
Yeah, and the importance of that is we started this podcast to give people who haven't really got a voice in rugby league outside the heartlands a voice, an opportunity to showcase the talent and all the great stuff that goes on. Now, this is another channel, and perhaps may even be a stronger channel in the future where, let's say we've got a young kid in downtown bloody Cardiff, who's just absolutely ripping it up and deserves some recognition. Now we can get them on the radio, you know what I mean? And they can be featured on the radio now. When I was a kid, it was all about getting your name in the paper, and that's where you got your recognition and you kept it in your scrapbook. Now, we don't necessarily do that. We clip our interview on the radio and share it on social media, or we clip our YouTube mention and share that on our social media. So we'll be able to do that. It's just a bigger platform to showcase our great sport and the people involved in it.
It's worth saying Switch Radio is in Birmingham, so the second biggest city in the UK. So it'll be on FM on Switch Radio, and it also goes out on DAB as well. So anybody wants to catch up, they can always catch it up at a later date. They have also got a partnership with the Midlands Hurricanes. They're going to be commentating on some of their matches. I think they covered the Hunslet away game the other week. So just another positive for rugby league in the Midlands. It's getting more exposure, and we're going along with that journey.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Okay, moving on to tackle 5. So the midpoint pretty much of the Super League season, and we thought we'd just have a different review. We'd try and come at it from a different angle to see how it's kind of working out. And we looked at the number of tries scored by all the teams in the Super League. What's kind of fallen out of this, Karl?
It's just interesting that you've got Wigan Warriors currently top of the table, aren't they? But they're not top of the table for tries scored. I think we can dissect that quite easily and say the top of the league because their defence is the best.
Yeah, they're scoring an adequate amount of tries, and their defence is shit up.
Yeah, St Helens currently have scored the most tries this year in Super League, so they're second in the table. So there's not much really in it there. Hull Kingston Rovers, second in the try-scoring tally with 71 tries, currently sitting third. We both know that they have been a red-hot team to watch this year. That doesn't surprise me. They score tries for fun. The one that did stand out a little bit, Huddersfield Giants, they're a lot higher in that table than I expected them to be.
Yeah. So they're currently fifth in the try scoring table.
Yeah.
With 54 tries. The nearest competitor Salford with 48 tries, but currently eighth in the table
Super League ladder. Yeah. So I didn't have Huddersfield down as being a high scoring side this year. Maybe Sky haven't watched enough Huddersfield games, but clearly they are.
Well, yeah, they are, but they're also a high conceding team, aren't they?
Do you know what as well? Huddersfield have won more games away. Do you know if you looked at this table and said, right, tries scored in away games, I bet Huddersfield would be right near the top.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, definitely. They'd have to be because they're getting all those wins away from home, aren't they?
Yeah.
So
if you review that, what's going wrong at Huddersfield? The defence, clearly.
Yeah, very, very leaky defence. I mean, let's face it, Jake Connor has cost them a few games recently with the ill discipline, giving away too many penalties. Yeah. I've said this about Huddersfield for a while now. They do a lot right. But then in terms of like the final finish, like the finesse, you know what I mean? Those little 1%ers, 2%ers that win games, they're just not nailing them. And ultimately, it looks like the defence, whatever, is just letting them down. Otherwise, they could be really competing this year. And I'm pretty sure that Ian Watson will be like, he'll be aware of these stats, and he'll be like, what the fuck are you lot need to sort yourselves out and really kind of work out this little kink in what's going on. So
if you look at the bottom half of the table, then that's pretty much as you would expect, really, isn't it? Tries scored are equal in their position in the table. London have only got the 28 tries this year. Hull FC 35, Cass 42. Lee Leopards, well, they're tied with the old Rhinos. Yeah, so the Rhinos are quite far down there. 46 tries this season.
Yeah, I know. But that's relative to where they are in the table.
Yeah,
it's not
it is.
a million miles off. So,
it is. Yeah.
That's exactly
I suppose the only real standout one is Huddersfield, I would have said from that.
Yeah, and it's just interesting, those top three just kind of jiggled around a little bit, with Wigan top of the table, currently, third in the try scoring things. And I have a metaphor, analogy, if you like, for a lot of different stuff, that it's always the waste. Like if you put a bathroom into a house, getting the water in is usually quite easy. Dealing with the waste is the hard bit. You know what I mean? And it's similar to in rugby league, like scoring the tries quite often. Yeah, that's what we do. That's what we're excited to do. But it's the defence that will let you down and cost you games. So, and including that, penalties, ill discipline, that kind of thing as well.
And that's why Wigan are sat at the top of the table.
Yeah,
they've got the best defence. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So tackle 6 then, Craig. We'll move on to William's weekly rant. No, it's not a rant this week, is it?
It's not a rant. It's a little bit curious. So my question is, like, what is your match day, like your home match day routine? Like, what do you do? How do you watch your games? Like, if you think like the Cadbury's cream egg, like how do you eat yours? How do you consume rugby league at home? So that's my real thing. And now I've got two routines. You pretty much know what they are, but I'll talk about them.
Yeah, go on.
Well, so the first one then. I will have. I often use it as like an opportunity to get on the treadmill, all right, and just blast out an hour and a half or whatever on the treadmill whilst I'm watching the rugby or what have you. Okay, so that's one routine, and I have the treadmill in my office, and I'll just bloody bang out some miles and watch the rugby. And I love that. Now, the other one, which is completely inverse of what I'm trying to do there, is like, get fit, keep the weight off and all that kind of stuff. I
can sense takeaway coming in.
Well, I don't have takeaway, but I love like making it a little bit of an event. So I'll have some nachos, or I might have a cheese board, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And I'll sit and watch the rugby whilst I'm snacking and all that. What usually dictates, which one I'm doing is what the wife's watching on the telly. So they're my two like match day, match day things. So what about you?
Well, I can only really say every week I pretty much watch the Thursday or Friday game. When it gets to Saturday, Sunday, I just...
Yeah, it's a mix-up, innit?
I'm doing stuff. I never seem to catch them. But, yeah, Thursday's the one I'm always really consistent with. If there's a game on Thursday, I always watch it.
I love the Thursday.
There's nothing else on TV.
Yeah.
And Friday, the weekends come in. So, those are my two slots in the house. I get to definitely watch TV. I don't really have a routine.
Do you not have a beer? Do you not have a beer, or do you not have like a certain drink?
I tend not to drink at home, so...
Well, that's bullshit. I've seen your recycling tub. It's fucking... It's the hardest working box in Dudley.
That's not mine, mate.
Is that not yours?
That's Kelly's and Dan's, that is.
Yeah. Dan a big drinker at home?
Yeah, big time, yeah. That's not mine. I don't go through a crate of Stella every weekend. Friday, I tend to get takeaway and watch the game on Friday. Saturday, Sunday games, I don't tend to watch them. But
when does your pizza oven come out? Because I know you're a big fan of your pizza oven. So is that not featuring your rugby league like match day routine?
It doesn't, but it's the plan is to get it featured in the match day routine. Yeah. I do have a projector as well that I used to put outside. So when it's dark enough in the summer, I've got a projector that goes outside on the decking. Get the games on there, and when the pizza oven's on,
See, this is the big thing for me. Is like you've got to make these things an event, haven't you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, really interested what your routine would be. How do you consume your Super League or Rugby League on the telly? Do you have a certain food that you'll always default to? Do you always have a beer? Do you watch them on your own? Do you get your mates round? Like, what is kind of... I assume other places around the country they'll go to the club and watch the game. and have a beer and whatever.
Well, yeah, you would have thought so. I mean, we're not in the heartlands, are we? So we don't have as many... clubs don't have their own clubhouses as much round here, do they, to go and watch Super League live on an evening. But yeah, if you're up in Yorkshire, Lancashire, I would have thought clubhouses are full on a weekend watching the rugby, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so interesting. Karl, obviously this is the point in the show where we have a little bit of a look forward to things that's coming up. So what are you talking about?
Yeah, so I want to mention the Touch Rugby World Cup is taking place in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
And it's taking place, well, not quite on our doorstep, but yeah, in the Midlands. 15th of July it starts. Yeah, the Touch Rugby World Cup, incredibly exciting. It's gone massively under the radar, this has. So,
shocker.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be like that because we're not, we're trying to be positive, but come on, we've got to get better at marketing these kind of things.
Yeah, I believe that there's 40 nations taking part in this competition. There's a men's competition, a women's competition, a mixed competition, and then I think there's like an over 35 and things like that. And from what I've been told, there's a lot of like ex-NRL players and things like that who play in this competition. So yeah, Rugby World Cup 15th of July to the 15th to the 22nd of July at Nottingham University.
Right.
Definitely try and get over to that if we can. 27 women's teams, 30 men's teams, and 30 mixed teams.
If we can, we'll get across and check out some of that. Okay, and also we're releasing another podcast this week as well on Thursday night.
Yeah, so this is the final one of our North Wales Crusaders podcast, but it's not actually a North Wales Crusaders podcast as such, this one. Conrad Anderson is the media manager for the North Wales Crusaders. So if you're running a media for an amateur or a community club or even a professional organisation and you want to get a bit of an insight to how North Wales Crusaders do theirs, this is a great episode to get your teeth into. Yeah,
I found it really interesting. The things that he was talking about, some of the stuff he's doing at North Wales Crusaders is a really great initiative. It was buzzing. I mean, it helped that it was great weather, but it was absolutely buzzing there, wasn't it, with the fan zone and all that. So, you might be able to replicate it on a smaller scale, but definitely worth kind of looking at, especially when, I was at a community game on Saturday and the crowd was down a little bit compared to what we'd grown to expect the year before.
Yeah.
So, if we're starting to lose a bit of interest, a few fans and followers or what have you, then this could be a great little episode for you. All right, Karl. Final words, what you got for us?
The episode on Switch Radio, the first one that's going to drop is the episode we released last week with Rich Squires of Aston Warriors. That's going to be the first Rugby League Outsiders episode that is going to be
the pilot episode.
Broadcast live.
Nice.
In Birmingham.
Okay, so thanks for joining us this week. As always, make sure that you like and comment below as we go through the show. And if you haven't done already, please subscribe. It helps us with our algorithms and all that malarkey and gets these messages to the people that needs to see it. So thank you very much. Until next time, take care.